Manhunt for the gunman who shot and killed United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson outside a hotel in Midtown Manhattan continues. Thompson was shot at least twice early yesterday morning by a man wearing a black jacket and mask obscuring half his face. Police still have not identified the suspect or a motive, but today, the NYPD revealed that the words deny, defend, and depose were discovered inscribed in the shell casings at the scene. We'll talk about that in a moment. After the shooting, the suspect fled the scene on foot to a nearby e-bike. He was last seen in Central Park after fleeing on that bike north up 6th Avenue into the park. Yesterday, police released the security camera photos showing the assailant at a nearby Starbucks before the shooting. Today, we learned the gunman bought a water bottle and 2 protein bars from that nearby Starbucks. Investigators recovered a video showing where the gunman discarded the items and recovered them as evidence. Also today, NYPD released 2 photos of a person of interest. Those pictures are from security footage recorded in an Upper West Side hostel. It's unclear what date these pictures are from, but you can see the full face there. Detectives have visited and searched one of the hostel's rooms. Joining me now is NBC News correspondent Priscilla Thompson, who's been following the story. Good to have you here. What are the latest developments?
Yeah, so the latest thing that we're hearing about is how exactly this suspect may have gotten into New York City. This idea that he took a Greyhound bus from Atlanta to New York on Sunday, November the 24th. So a week and a half that he may have been in the city thinking about this, planning this, scoping things out. We don't know. But what is clear is that the NYPD is finding the surveillance video and beginning to piece together a fuller picture of the hours, potentially the days leading up to this. NBC New York getting that surveillance video of the suspect on that e-bike on West 85th Street when he was fleeing into Central Park, which is the last known place that police know he was before we now no longer know his whereabouts, at least not publicly. And of course, the big video today, that surveillance video from the hostel where you actually see the full face unmasked. That's been out there today across the TV screens and the newspapers. And so they're interviewing witnesses, people who may have spoken with him or seen him to try to piece together where he was and anything we can learn about him.
So they are calling him, they're calling it the suspect or assailant in the pictures in Starbucks. They're calling those images of that individual at the hostel a person of interest. I think there's a technical legal reason they want to do that, but clearly they're interested in finding out who that person is and speaking to them.
Yes, absolutely. And so it seems from what we're looking at just as normal citizens that this is probably all the same person. But police are being very specific about saying the man you see in that Starbucks video with the face mask on, that is a suspect. The person in the hostel video where you see the full face and he's smiling, we know they're reviewing that footage of the person going down West 85th on the e-bike. That is a person of interest who they are interested in speaking to in connection.
So we show that footage. That's after he had gone up into the park, gotten out of the park, right? And then he's out of the park on West 85th. Is that right?
So it's my understanding that this is actually after he flees into the alley, he gets on that e-bike and he's going down West 85th, going into the park. And that's where they lose him.
Gotcha. It's striking to me, there's some of the images we have. It is striking to me that the image of the person at the hostel, where you have a full face. There's been several books written recently about facial recognition technology. I had Kashmir Hill, who's a great reporter, wrote a book about it. I had her on my podcast, Why Is This Happening? It's wild how powerful that is. I know in the January 6th investigation, for instance, it was used, you can sort of find everyone. So it would seem to me that that's a pretty, for modern facial recognition technology, that feels like pretty close to what you would need to feed it into the database.
Yeah, it feels like a good photo, and I'm sure the NYPD is running it through their databases now. Maybe they just haven't gotten a hit yet. We don't know because they certainly haven't released a name publicly. And they also said with this Greyhound news that came out about him coming in by bus that they're trying to track that ticket to see if they can get any information about who he was from that. So maybe they haven't gotten a ping on this face from the photos alone, but obviously working all the elements, but they should have quite a database to be able to do that.
We are anticipating that at some point there's going to be further developments in terms of a name, right, or something closer. But they've given us no indication of if they have geolocated him in any area, like whether he's got out of the city or whether he's got back to Atlanta, right? Like they don't know any of that?
Right. We know that they were kind of checking Port Authority earlier today, but from what they have shared with the public, no sense of a geolocation where he might be, if he's even still in the city or not. And of course, the big thing, a name. And that hostel where he was seen required ID and payment, but they believe he used a fake ID there. And so it's interesting to see the places where he seemed really good at this, very professional, I guess, if you want to say about this, and the places where you're finding the water bottle, you're finding the protein bars.
We're going to continue to follow this. It's mind-blowing to me that this bee is on the loose right now. Priscilla Thompson, thank you so much for your help.
You bet.